will win by fire.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at the most historically accurate and romanticized moments from this Napoleon Bonaparte biopic. If you have issues with the creative liberties, you can send any complaints to Ridley Scott at getalife.com. We guess we'll give a spoiler alert, but can you really spoil history?
Your Majesty, we are discovered.
Good.
Number 10. Napoleon's height. Right. When Joaquin Phoenix got cast, some questioned if he was too tall to play Napoleon.
You are just a tiny little brute that is nothing without me.
The so-called little corporal is often portrayed as cartoonishly short, contributing to the term Napoleon complex.
Son! Your Napoleon complex, all he's known for.
Bro!
Yeah. And that's
just
a short guy who's just tough all the time for no reason.
Napoleon complex should mean you are that guy, you're him.
While Napoleon wasn't the tallest man on the battlefield, his short stature has been grossly exaggerated. Napoleon was said to be 5 feet 2 inches, but those measurements predated the metric system. Going by modern measurements, Napoleon was closer to 169 centimeters, or around 5 feet 6.5 inches. Phoenix is only slightly taller at 5 feet 8 inches, making him an appropriate height to play the average-sized corporal. Although the size is accurate, Phoenix notably started shooting the film in his late 40s, which is closer to how old Napoleon was when he died.
I am destined for greatness.
Number 9. Napoleon was at Marie Antoinette's execution. Wrong.
No doubt you'll send the chaos in the streets.
The last Queen of France notoriously met her end at the guillotine on October 16, 1793. While the film's depiction of the execution is mostly faithful, Napoleon is among the crowd, which doesn't add up with the timeline. From August 29th to December 19th that year, Napoleon was engaged in the Siege of Toulon, which marked the first major turning point in his military career.
Bonaparte fought bravely, leading his men in the assault on the fort guarding the heights, suffering a wound in the thigh from an enemy bayonet.
Toulon, France is roughly 840 kilometers away from Paris, where Marie Antoinette was executed. There's no way Napoleon could have been at the Place de la Concorde when the former queen lost her head. Napoleon's presence here emphasizes the transfer from one controversial leader to another, but the filmmakers definitely try to have their cake and eat it too. Number 8. Breaking ice at the Battle of Austerlitz. Right. Throughout the Napoleonic Wars, the Battle of Austerlitz just might have been Bonaparte's proudest achievement. Although the film fast-forwards through much of the battle, it highlights one of the most infamous moments.
Wait! Let them think they have the higher ground.
With Napoleon solidifying his victory, enemy soldiers began to retreat across the frozen lakes. Napoleon nonetheless ordered 25 cannons to fire upon the icy battleground, causing fleeing soldiers to fall into the shallow yet freezing water. The exact number of casualties from this move is up for debate. Napoleon claimed it was 2,000, but he was known to exaggerate.
But even so, it was a horrific end for so many brave men.
Historians argue that the real number of drowned men could be anywhere between 2 and 200. In any case, this scene captures Napoleon at his most merciless. Number 7. The Fire of Moscow. Right. Not every victory is as fulfilling as one initially assumes. The film sees Napoleon and his troops arrive in Moscow to find it's already been abandoned. Napoleon was indeed surprised as the French invaded the practically empty Russian city, anticipating a fight. Shortly after, any hope that Alexander I would be forced to negotiate a peaceful resolution went up in literal flames.
Mountains of red, rolling flames, Napoleon recalled later, like immense waves of the sea. Oh, it was the most grand, the most sublime, and the most terrifying sight the world ever beheld.
Rather than surrender to the French, Russia opted to burn down its sacred city.
But as they were to prove 7 years later in the ill-fated Moscow campaign, Russian forces on the retreat could prove elusive foes. And Napoleon's force found themselves unable to pin down the retreating Russians.
While there are varying accounts of how the fire started, it's generally believed that Count Fyodor Rostopchin made the orders. This is among the few moments in the biopic where Napoleon appears legitimately unsettled, which coincides with the real-life military leader's disturbed reaction. Number 6. Napoleon attacked the pyramids. Wrong. The Battle of the Pyramids took place on July 21st, 1798. With a name like that, one might jump to the conclusion that Napoleon attacked the Egyptian pyramids, as the film suggests. When naming the battle, Napoleon actually drew inspiration from the Great Pyramid of Giza. Alas, the title was misleading. The battle took place roughly 9 miles away from the pyramids near a village called Mbebe, which is located across the Nile River with Cairo on the other side.
At the Battle of the Pyramids, in only 2 hours, Napoleon the Conqueror atomized the 20,000 Mamelukes of the Sultan of Constantinople. The new master of Egypt also wanted to be the civilizer of Middle Eastern people.
Although the pyramids were visible from the battlefield, they were hardly within firing distance. Napoleon's forces did stumble upon artifacts like mummies when the French invaded Egypt. However, if Napoleon had taken a shot at any of the pyramids, the damage would have been noticeable. Number 5. Napoleon left Egypt to confront Josephine about her affair. Wrong. With rumors regarding his wife's infidelity circulating, Napoleon abandons his post in Egypt and returns home. It's true that Josephine had an affair with a French officer named Hippolyte Charles, but the film distorts the timeline. Napoleon first heard rumors of the affair before France invaded Egypt. Josephine convinced her infuriated husband that such gossip wasn't true. The rumors resurfaced during Napoleon's time in Egypt.
It is true that at that time, Bonaparte believed the rumors that Josephine had betrayed him. He was on his campaign in Egypt. But there was also a lot of malice behind those rumors. They benefited the members of the Bonaparte family who disliked Josephine. And they also benefited General Bonaparte's opponents.
Rather than rush home in a rage, though, Napoleon wrote to his brother, asking him to arrange a divorce. Although this wasn't the end of their marriage, Napoleon and Josephine continued to drift apart.
I am the most important thing in the world.
While in Egypt, Napoleon gained a mistress in Pauline Forest, who was nicknamed his Cleopatra. The film mentions Napoleon's affairs, but figures like Forest are absent. Number 4. Napoleon divorced Josephine because she couldn't produce an heir. Right.
I had so much compassion for her because it was a brutal time. And he was brutal to be with.
The affairs by no means helped their marriage, but it was Josephine's inability to deliver an heir that ultimately drove Napoleon away. Confirming that he wasn't infertile, Napoleon had illegitimate sons with Éléonore de Noël de la Plaine and Marie Walewska.
And so the French government put pressure on Napoleon to divorce Josephine and find another wife, and one who would actually continue the Bonaparte line.
Despite still having feelings for Josephine, Napoleon argued it would be in France's best interest if he had a legitimate heir, asking for a divorce. Josephine reluctantly agreed, and the marriage ended with a public ceremony on January 10, 1810.
She doesn't have to worry about anything material. Her situation and her position are secure. But her purpose in life is gone, and she falls into a deep depression.
Within 2 months, Napoleon married Marie-Louise of Austria. Another 4 months later, Marie-Louise was pregnant with Napoleon II. The film doesn't delve deep into Napoleon's second marriage, focusing on the devotion he felt towards Josephine even after divorcing.
You are nothing without me.
Number 3. How Napoleon learned of Josephine's death. Wrong. The film shows Napoleon returning home to find out that his beloved Josephine died during his absence. Although they had been divorced for almost 4 years, this revelation still crushed the real Napoleon. The emotion displayed in the scene might be authentic, but the setting is wrong. The news first reached Napoleon during his exile on the island of Elba. Napoleon didn't receive the grim news from another person either. Rather, he read about Josephine's passing in a French journal.
He only hears the news much later. He experiences the deepest sorrow he has felt in his life. He suffers from her absence until the end.
Devastated, Napoleon locked himself in a room for 2 days, refusing to converse with others. While this plays out differently in the film, it does convey Napoleon's grief and vulnerability, setting the stage for what would be his biggest defeat.
As the weeks passed, Napoleon grew bored playing at Emperor of Elba. He never took his eye off France.
Number 2. Napoleon was shot through the hat during the Battle of Waterloo. Wrong. When people think of battles that Napoleon fought in, Waterloo immediately comes to mind, albeit not for the most flattering reasons. 3 months after Napoleon regained control in Paris, his reign officially came to an end with this fateful battle. While the film gets a fair deal about Waterloo right, it goes full Hollywood when one of the enemy soldiers fires a shot at the fleeing Napoleon. The ammunition just misses Napoleon's skull, instead leaving a sizable hole in his hat. If you want evidence this didn't happen, look no further than the actual hat that Napoleon reportedly dropped at Waterloo.
It was the one Napoleon wore on June 18, 1815, when he was defeated by the British forces commanded by the Duke of Wellington and General von Blücher's Prussian army.
Sold at auction in 2018 for more than $400,000. The hat possesses some wear, but no gaping holes. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Napoleon crowned himself. Right.
Shall we vote?
That hat might have been Napoleon's most iconic article of clothing, but it was a crown that he desired above all else. At his coronation in the film, Napoleon snatches the crown and places it on his head, much to everyone's shock.
I found the crown of France in the gutter and placed it atop my own head.
Historians have debated exactly how this played out. A legend suggests that Napoleon grabbed the crown from Pope Pius VII, demonstrating his newfound power as emperor.
Almost as if the revolution had never happened, there was now a single ruler, a state church, an honor system, and a new nobility.
The movie reflects this myth, although in reality, the Pope knew what Napoleon intended to do with the crown. Thus, this wasn't as radical as the film makes it out to be. That said, Napoleon did crown himself and Josephine emperor and empress. Napoleon held the position for nearly a decade, being exiled twice, with the latter sticking. What are you going to do today, Napoleon? Leave your response in the comments, gosh!
I promise you brilliant successes.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.